Everyone, welcome to the Jewish Stripper Raw and Reel with Ala Kaplan. My name is Ala Kaplan, obviously, and welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you're coming back. And today I have a special guest, Karen R.F. Mitchell of the Lioness Empress. Is it Empress Lioness?
The Empress Lioness.
The Empress Lioness podcast. Very special podcast, and she is a certified coach, life coach, and also a published author. She had a book out. So, welcome, Karen. So good to see you.
Thank you, Ella.
So,
So,
tell us a little bit about your book and your life experience that's similar to mine, a little bit of my story.
sure. So, it's like you said, I am Karen R.F. Mitchell. I'm the host of the Empress Lioness podcast and transformational life coach, speaker, and now author. I just published my first book, Becoming the Empress Lioness, Rising from Survival into Sovereignty. And the story behind that is a profound one because, just like you mentioned when we met previously, um, I had to have where I dealt with trauma, PTSD. So my story is not just about what I survived; it is about who I became after survival. Because for a long time, I was the woman who carried the pain quietly. I learned how to be strong, how to keep going and pretending that everything was okay when really and truly it wasn't. I have found myself going through a cycle. And one day I woke up and said, you know what, Karen, you have to stop doing this and start doing something different. In my mind, it was if you want something different in life, you have to try something different. So I'll take you back to this story. I grew up in the Caribbean, small island, Nassau, Bahamas.
Right.
Yeah, and I grew up very shy. I never would say anything, but I loved dancing. I loved to be the center of attention. I had a lot of friends. And as I got older, I've noticed that a lot of people would say stuff like, "Oh, she always want to be center of attention," and "Why you always?" And I would draw a crowd of people around me when I was younger. I was so outgoing, but I was shy when it came to making friends, meeting new people.
Me too.
But it seemed like they always gravitated toward me, right?
Yeah.
And like I had a lot of friends, but I was not the one initiating them.
Yeah. Exactly.
But fast forward, I got into a relationship with a man and everything started out so good, right? It was just so awesome. He seemed like he was the perfect man. He didn't lie. He worked a really great job. Actually, he became an entrepreneur of a really, successful company. And he accepted me with my two kids. And, we built this life where I can raise my kids. I would stay at home. I would work part time sometimes. But he was the sole provider of the home, an older man, older than I was. And after a while, he asked me to marry him. And most girls my age would jump at, but for me, I did not. I didn't feel like something like it was off. It wasn't right, right? And so I declined him like three times. And I think on the fourth time, I remember my dad telling me, you know what, Karen, you got three kids now because I had a child for him,
Mhm.
three different men. And maybe you should just go ahead and settle down. And so, of course, it's my dad. And I said, okay, you know what? I'll marry this guy. What can it hurt, right? The worst
Mhm.
it can do is give a better life for me and my kids. And so I did.
Right.
But as he went on, he got ill and he turned into someone different. So he had an affair on me after when our daughter was born. And it just turned me into the dragon that I already was. And it
Uh,
made me reevaluate my life because it was like, I keep choosing the wrong guy. Like, I've been in relationships with,
Me too.
with married men, with men that had other committed relationships. And those were my preferences, right? Because
Mm,
they didn't have to commit to me. I didn't have to commit to them. And
mhm,
I can just get whatever I needed out of the relationship, which was always monetary. But that was my cycle. Older
mm,
men, somebody that can do I never entered a relationship that did not benefit me in any way. But not only that, I had a low, I don't want to say low self-esteem, but my confidence level was not
mhm.
how it should be. And so when I looked at myself in the mirror, I realized that I was choosing someone that looked just not look like me, but had the same aura or acted like I did. Didn't have their life together, didn't know what they wanted in relationship, didn't know how to be in a committed relationship. And I find that a lot of people go through that cycle. So they could the reason and essence of my book. I wanted to I wanted to show women the cycle that I went through, the patterns that I recognize, and the commitment that I made to myself before I found my now husband, which is I'm in a great relationship. I'm in a great space with him. And he treats me like no other man has ever treated me before in my entire life. And going with him and being married to him, it made me realize that, wait a minute, there's so many women out there that don't have good relationships because they don't
It's
think
hard
that
to find.
exactly. And they're
Hard to find. It's hard to find that one that makes you feel safe.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of women think it does not exist. Like there's not a man out there that's
Where
not
are these good men? Where are all these good men?
they're here. But we have to align with those good men. Because when you look at the mirror and you think about, okay, so for me, and I like to use my life like an example. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a person that didn't know how to be in a relationship. I was a people pleaser.
Okay.
I shrunk in rooms to make other people feel good or to be accepted by other women. Well, that was the type of men I was attracting. And so I had to stop the roller coaster ride, jump off, and
Right.
said, you know
Right.
what? I need to do something different. I can't
Yeah.
attract me because I can't be in a
Right.
relationship.
What am
And
I?
so
What's in me that's attracting this?
exactly, who are you attracting? You attract what you are.
Right.
And even though we hate to admit it as women and men, we do. If you're toxic, you're gonna attract a toxic man because an aligned man is not gonna be attracted to a woman that's toxic, right?
I'm not attracting anything right now. I just decided not to attract anything for a while.
And that's good because a lot of women jump from relationship to relationship.
That was my pattern. That was my pattern.
And see, we don't stop to reevaluate ourselves or the relationship we just came out of. What didn't you like in that relationship? What did you like in that relationship? Who was that man that you were in a relationship with? And what did your body tell you that why you didn't feel safe? You know what I mean? All of these questions, these red flags, we turn our backs to them. We ignore them. And so what my book teaches you through me is the process that I went through in trying to align myself with a king
What
always.
is the name of your book?
And in becoming the Empress Lioness, rising from survival into sovereignty.
I love it.
Yeah. So what that means is you have to recognize that you're in survival mode. One.
Mhm.
Two, you have to be willing to transition out of survival mode into sovereignty so that you can align in a good relationship with someone. You know what I mean?
And first of all, align in a good relationship with yourself.
That's where it starts.
Right.
It starts with you. You recognizing that you're in survival mode, one, and two, going through the process, whether it's the healing process to try and get out of survival mode. And that's a process. So for me, it took me probably 7 years, 7, 8 years. I'm not even gonna lie.
Wow.
And yeah, it did because I had a lot of trauma in my life. I'd been through a lot of life experiences um that had broken me down. And then I found myself drinking even more, people pleasing even more, just trying to be accepted because I didn't know who I was. And
And that's the part. Who am I on my own?
Mhm. Who are you?
Because I've been on my own for a while. I'm not even gonna say how many years.
Yeah,
I mean, I've dated but there's just not been that one. And you know what? As I was telling you when we met the first time on your podcast, if I don't end up with someone, that's okay too. Because if
yeah.
I'm happily single, it's just a matter of, okay, I'm not trying to be in the wrong place anymore.
Yeah.
And so I applaud you for, taking that time. And so what if it's 7 years or 8 years, or for me it's more than 10 years right now. I'm not trying to attract what I don't want. Maybe I haven't figured out exactly what I want, but I figured out what I don't want.
And I will tell you, that's a great start because that was something I had to do. I wrote a list of what I wanted in a man. I'm not talking about physical outside. I'm talking about I wanted him to have a good heart. I wanted him to like kids. I wanted him to be responsible man. I wanted him to be compassionate with people, kind of similar to the things that I was. And then I wrote a list of the things that I would not accept from a man. One, I didn't like a man that smoked cigarettes because I didn't like the nicotine and I have a little bit of asthma. I didn't want someone that was a cheater, somebody that would lie to me. But then I also had a third list, and that was my deal breaker, right?
Yeah.
And my deal breaker link came from my list of don'ts. So one of my deal breakers was like I didn't want to be involved with a man that um was smoking cigarettes. That was a deal breaker for me.
Okay.
Legit stop the conversation like that would not be
Right
interested.
right then and there. Bye.
Right then and there. It didn't matter what else he did. It didn't matter what he drove. It didn't matter what job he had. If he smoked cigarettes, that was my exit.
Right. That's number one. That was your priority. Okay.
Yeah, so I maybe had 5 things on my,
Don't.
yeah, don't tolerate list and or non-negotiable list, and so
Yeah.
anytime I would meet someone and they would anything on that list would come up, that was a hard no. If
Yeah.
nothing came up,
Like
then I said
liar, cheater, outlie, you know.
well, at the time, I thought all men cheat, I'm not even gonna lie, but I knew that the man that I would eventually marry and fall in love with would never cheat on me. And as I started going through the process of healing and transitioning over, I I knew I deserved a man that would not cheat on me. I knew I deserved a man that would not lie to me. And and so I honestly believe that that's what I was gonna get. People laughed at me when I told them, "Oh no, I'm waiting on my husband." I'm not, because you have to do that. But not only
Yeah.
that,
Because people say, "Well, you're pretty and you're outgoing, and how
yeah,
come you don't have someone?" They say, "Oh, what's wrong with you if you're single?" They're always asking, "Why aren't you married? Why aren't you with someone? Why are you solo?" Things like that. Is that similar to my experience? Because that's what people do, is they think that, if you're solo, then something must be wrong with
he's wrong.
you.
Yeah. When there's really nothing wrong, but we take that and we evaluate it within ourselves.
Mhm.
And some of us, we believe that something might be wrong with us, but really there isn't. I've met so many women that have what we call high standard,
Mhm.
meaning they don't want a man at a certain, caliber of man that they're looking for and they won't accept anything. But I want
Well,
women to understand it's not about what's in a man's pocket. It's not about his status. It's not about his job or the amount of money that he makes. None of that is going to give you real love and real satisfaction. Okay.
exactly.
It's time for us to expand our mind and our way of thinking as women. And I use in my book, I use the lioness as an example. When you think about a lioness, she is the queen of the jungle, but she's just not any queen. She's queen to the king of the jungle, who, by the way, does one task, and that is to protect the child.
That
Right?
sounds very I'm going to, um, compare it a little bit to in the Jewish culture that, even though, like, they do a lot of things where women and men pray separately and stuff like that, but in the Jewish culture, the wife, the woman is the, head and foundation of the home. She is honored. She
Yeah.
is but I'm not gonna lie, okay, because, a lot people think, that even, like, very religious, super Orthodox Jewish men, they believe it or not, they cheat, they go to prostitutes. There are some men who do that. It's it's
Okay.
it's a fact. That's not
No,
it's
it's
a
not.
fact. It's not, something I'm making up. But, the in the Torah, the woman is the main, um she is the one to be protected.
Yes.
She is the one through that is the head of the household. She is the foundation of the home.
And that's really how it should be in all society, right? Because the
Mhm.
women hold it down, just like the lioness. She holds it down in the household. She takes care of the cub. And not only that, she forms a community of other lioness with her.
And they hunt.
They hunt together. They take care of the kids together. They build a community. And if you
Yeah.
look at that back in the day, and now women are competing with other women.
So I love that whole akin to the lioness.
Yeah.
I love that whole analogy.
So pretty much the name came from that.
I
Number
love
one,
it.
we have to be empresses. And if a woman thinks of herself as an empress, she thinks of herself as royalty. Because when you think about an empress doesn't accept things that a normal, common woman would, right?
And some people say, "Oh, you think you're a queen."
Yeah,
And well, I am a queen.
we are.
If you
We
don't
are.
like it, if you don't like that, keep on rolling past me.
Right. So what I've learned that becoming an empress means that I don't have to explain that when someone says that to me. You see what I'm
Exactly.
saying? If they say, "Oh, you think you're better than me, you think you're a queen, you're not," I don't have to respond to that because they- I don't need validation from anyone on the outside. I know who I am, and it doesn't matter if no one else thinks it. It only matters what I think. That's where the empress mindset comes from. The lioness comes from building a community of women that also believe that they're empresses that will also take care of home, form a group, and bounce ideas off another woman that's also an empress lioness, right? Meaning, when I say that, there are a lot of women that are married and they don't understand how to be a wife. There are a lot of women that are going through menopause and they don't know what
Oh,
it's all
yeah.
about. So it's one woman helping another woman to understand not only the changes in her body or how to become a wife or how to help out if she has a newborn and doesn't know what to do. It's that type of community when I mentioned,
Yeah. Yeah, if you have no support,
yeah,
you're you know, you're done. I mean, I personally, I didn't really have a support system because I let my ex-husband isolate me from my family, from my friends. I didn't really have any real friends except for the women that I danced with. at the strip club. So
You
that was my only community. And I'm not even gonna go into the fact that my ex-husband was trying to sleep with everybody that I worked with.
of course. What course? But, that's because you had aligned yourself with this man that had you there, and so your mindset wasn't there, though. You were in survival mode. And when
Yeah,
you're in survival mode, you don't think clearly, right? You're just
right.
trying to survive another day, no matter what it is
Exactly.
you have going on, whether you're in a bad relationship, an abusive relationship, or just you have ruts. You know what I mean? So if any one of those things happen, yeah, you're surviving, trying to make it throughout this day and then
Yeah.
all over again the next day. But there's so much more to life than being in survival mode.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about, yeah, the tell my audience how, because I do a lot of, talking about escaping the trauma and moving out of that survival mode, and how you found the courage to do that.
Yeah, so and I speak about this in my book also. There's a chapter where I speak about what actually triggered me to leave
Mm.
my marriage and start this process. And it was one day, my husband had had a stroke. We hadn't even been married a year yet, and he lost all movement. He can talk, he can walk, and so I nursed him.
Wow.
And then when I nursed him back to health, he
Yeah.
attacked my son. My son was about 10 years old and
Oh
for
my
no
god.
apparent reason. And we're sitting in the car and he trying to hit my son, and my daughter reaches over from the back where he was and starts hitting him to stop him. And
Wow.
I was frozen because I hadn't done anything in that moment. I'd never seen him behave that way. My ex-husband, that I've never seen him put a hand on the kid, and when he did that, I was just frozen in time. It was like going slow motion watching my daughter defend her brother because her mother wasn't doing anything. And I snapped out of it. And that was where I got the courage to leave when I looked at my daughter's face and she was crying and looking at me to help her. And I looked at my son and he was crying and looking at me to help him.
Yeah,
And
your
then he was
children
lost.
have been deeply affected by this.
They were traumatized.
Yeah.
They were traumatized. I had kept them in this traumatizing relationship for way too long. And I was just concerned about how it affected me and surviving and keeping people away. And I had not considered how it was affecting my children. And I think when that moment
And
happened,
this triggered you to say, "I'm done."
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I packed up. I sent my oldest daughter to my sister in the States, and the two youngest ones I kept near me until I was able to get enough money saved up to go. So I went and I left. I packed each one of us with one suitcase each. I had $500 in my pocket and I left. And that is how the whole transition began. When I arrived in the States at my sister's house, I started to think, okay, Karen, here we are again. It's like you go through life, you are on the top, and then you end up on the bottom. You start on the
Yeah.
top, you end up on the bottom.
You
It's
have
a
to
repeat
rebuild
cycle.
yourself. You have to
Yeah.
rebuild yourself. Yeah.
But this time, I realized I was not going to choose a man to help rebuild me. I
Right.
wanted to be able to take care of myself on my own without a man. I wanted to take care of my kids without a man. I wanted to have my own stuff without anybody. And I was in my early 30s at that time. I had 3 kids, no car, no ID, nowhere to stay. Like, we stayed in my sister's one of her bedrooms, all 3 of us. And I remember waking up one night, looking at my kids lying in that bed with me, and I thought, "You have to do something else. This is not gonna work," you know? And immediately, I tried to find a job and, try to get my life organized. It was I would be lying if I tell you that was not the hardest thing I've ever done. It was the
Yeah.
hardest thing because I was so used to having men help me. And then this was an opportunity for me to help myself. And I wanted to see, one, how strong I was. What did I really have in me? It tested my boundaries. It tested my resilience. Like, it just tested my strength.
Your resilience is amazing.
eventually. So by the time you're in it, you're not
Mm.
thinking, you're
I
not
think
thinking about what am I gonna do?
I think resilience, I was telling someone else, is a God-given
Yeah,
that we do, and we sometimes everyone has it, but there's a turning point where they dig deep down when they're at their worst
yeah,
and find it and dig, and that's when the resilience comes and you build it. And like I was saying, unfortunately, you learn it from experience, but it's always been there.
it's always been there,
Right.
always. So I dug so deep and I didn't do it for me. I knew I had to survive for my children.
Yeah.
Did not want this to be their ending place. And so I fought really hard. I got one job and then I got another job. I convinced the job to let me work from home. I got my kids in school. $500. 500. That was
All you had in your
August.
pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, that was August.
Yeah.
And you know, school was starting. That was August of 2011. I will never forget it. By September of 2011, I had gotten into my own place. By January, I had gotten a car, and by February, I had moved into a new home. That's how hard I was pushing. And
Because you were on a new path.
I was on a new
You were on a new path. You put yourself on a new path.
I did.
You did something you didn't think you could do,
Yes,
but you did it.
yes,
And I mean, it's amazing. It's
yes,
amazing the resilience that not just women have, but people in general.
yeah,
When you're at that bottom and you know you have to climb out of it, and you just, you, as, Prince said in Let's Go Crazy, punch a higher floor, right? When the elevator tries to bring you down,
yeah.
punch the higher floor.
That's right. And so what I wanted to do was show other women, if I can do it, you can do it too.
Yes.
I don't have a college degree, Ala.
Yeah.
Mhm. I've been raped when I was 17. My life story is just incredible. Although I was very, very smart in school, I just never went on to get a college degree. I have some college experience, but not a college degree.
Right. Me
But
too.
I teach from my lived experience in life.
Right.
And I want other women to know that you don't need to be on that perfect path to get that perfect ending. Because I got my perfect ending because I put in the work, and you have to put in the work, right? I'd never been alone by myself to really be one with my thoughts. I'd always had a man around me, always had
Right.
children, always doing something. And so this time alone, I learned so much about me. I learned what it was that I was going to accept in relationships, not just intimate relationships, but relationships with my family. I learned what I would not accept from people. I learned that I had to teach people how to treat me. And in order for me to do that, I had to look at myself differently and treat myself differently in order for someone else to treat me
And
differently.
I applaud you for having the courage, and especially, I think, for me, it was easier because we didn't have children,
Yeah.
which in this situation was a blessing in disguise
Oh,
because
yeah.
I wanted to have children with this man very much so, but, God had other plans. But you had children, and so I think it's even more difficult for someone having children to take them, because you have children to take care of, not just yourself.
Exactly.
So I applaud you for just having the courage to take your children out of the situation so that, they're not affected by this trauma down the road.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Right.
definitely. Because I will tell you this, um, and I always tell moms to be honest and open with your kids because we think that they're just little kids, they don't understand, but they understand when they see the abuse. They
Right.
understand that mommy's not happy, mommy's
They're
crying.
like sponges, they absorb
Yeah, they do.
information.
They do. And so the first thing I had to do was sit my children down, all three of them. I think they were like 5, 11, and 14.
Mm.
And I sat them down. I told them the changes that we were going to be making. I told them what mommy was thinking about doing. And if they were okay with that, there were going to be no other guys. There was just going to be you guys and me. And mommy was going to take care of you guys. You got to trust me. We're not going to be eating out anymore like we used to. We probably can't travel like we used to. Like, oh, there's a lot of things that my kid,
Yeah.
that they would do. And now I had to teach them that or show them that we can't do that right now.
Right.
Only has to push the reset button and we're going to start all over. And are you guys going to be on board with mommy? And let me
Right.
tell you, Alla, my kids are awesome. It makes me
You
cry.
have no doubt.
It makes me cry when I think about them. Being that young,
Um,
they never asked for anything. They never said, oh, well, everybody's going away for the summer. We're not going. They just stayed in that house with me when I was home. And they just knew mommy was working. They would be quiet. And then when I was done working, I would come out. We would do stuff, play board games, watch movies, do our hair together. Like I would really interact with my children. They
they
were
were
my,
your ride or die. They were
they
your
are,
ride or die.
even to this day, they're still my ride or die. Let me tell you, I don't want to cry, but they are.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, my children saved my life so many times because I think a lot of choices I made in life, I always considered I got to go back to them. I can't leave them in this world without me being there to protect them and to make sure that these things that happen to me don't happen to them. So that pushed me even more to look at myself and say, okay, Karen, what is it? Do you want to date someone like you? And I started to think about who I was as a person.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh no, she has so much trauma going on. I don't want anybody with that kind of mess.
Yeah.
So I'm
And you have to
starting,
look at your own patterns and
I
say,
did.
this gotta go, this gotta go, this gotta
Yeah.
go. And all this stuff has to
All
go.
this, all this trash had to go. And in order for it to go, I had to just start pointing it out, pinning it out, and then being intentional about making the change. So when I started dating years later, I've been very intentional about my dating, right? I would not date guys and go out to dinner and do all that stuff. I made it quick. Meet me for coffee, meet me for ice
Exactly.
cream.
Yeah.
Because that initial meeting is gonna tell me if I want to pursue it
Yeah.
to
And
go
two
on.
minutes, you're gonna tell me about yourself and who you are.
And that
And I can decide right then and there, do we go further or not? Yeah.
I didn't need to beg anybody for anything at the time. I was in my
Right.
life where I had a really great job. I was making good money. I had a really great foundation set up for the children already so that their life can start getting back to normalcy. And now it was time for me to find someone for me. Not a baby daddy, not someone that could care of my kid, but somebody who can align with the new Karen or who I was becoming.
Yeah.
And
Emotionally,
yeah,
emotionally, and that safe place, that person is a
exactly,
safe place for you. Yeah.
exactly. But I will tell you, during that time, I was practicing celibacy because I did not want to get caught up in emotionally with somebody and
Right.
being soul tied with someone and then being, gravitating toward them because I don't know, the sex is good, maybe. So I didn't want
Yeah, that can
mess
mess
with your head, right?
that messes with your head and other parts of you.
So that's the first thing I had to let go. And let me tell you, Ally, it was hard.
I
I
know. I know. I know. Oh, I know from experience.
I used to tell people that was one of the hardest tasks
Yeah.
I had to do was be celibate. There were times that I did not do a good job at that in the beginning. So
Oh, I don't want to interrupt you, but I had a friend who used to say, and this is gonna be explicit. It's not for children. They used to say meditation and masturbation. That's what to get to know yourself, to
But I agree. I agree with that. I think every woman should explore her body and know what pleases her and what makes her get to that point. Because if you don't know your body, how can you expect a man to know your body, right? It's your body.
Yeah, and the meditation is, clearing your clearing the clutter out of your head.
Yeah.
Well, that clutter has to go
And
somewhere.
quieting the noise in your head to really hear what the universe or what God is wanting you and which direction you need to be pulled in. And that was what I did. I learned who Karen was. I knew what my boundaries was. I knew what I wanted. I knew who I was. And that was the most important thing to me, was to know who I am. And then I met my husband. And so that was one
It
of
was
the
meant to be. It was you put out into the universe, I'm gonna have to redo a list. I had a list. I'm gonna have to redo a list because
that
I question at this point in my life, do I even want someone because I do have those boundaries. I do have a little bit of that wall up because um I'm not just gonna take anything I can get.
yeah.
If I really wanted to, I could have someone. That's not the point though. The point is I want someone who isn't gonna make me cry.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. I want someone who isn't gonna make me cry, who I don't have to wonder what they're doing behind my back. And they're emotionally safe for me.
You know what? Why don't we do this, Allie? You have a pen and paper there?
Uh, no, not right in front of me, but I'll remember it. I have a really good memory.
I wanted to show you how I did my list, and it plays a really important role for women because I think we always look at the outside of people. I mean, you
Oh,
can
yeah. I would love you to tell us the list.
yeah. So let's do that. What kind of guy do you think would be good to align with you right now in this present moment of who you are?
Mhm.
What are you looking for?
Um, honestly, okay, so I'm looking for someone. It's no longer about looks.
No.
It's no longer about the outside. It doesn't hurt, but I'm looking for someone that I'm losing my voice today.
You're fine.
Um, I'm looking for someone who is going to person.
Someone you're attracted to, of course, because you want to be physically attracted to them.
I'm looking for someone who's going to basically we're going to be able to put up with each other. But they're going to accept me the
No,
way I am.
you're already wrong. You're already
Mhm.
off.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, because you want someone that's gonna put up with you the way that you are right now, but that's not what you want as an empress, right?
Right.
So we're gonna go more.
Well, I
We're
could
gonna
do a
go
whole session for that.
we're gonna go.
Where I am,
You want someone that is patient,
yeah,
right? You want someone
patient, kind, honest.
on
I
it.
mean, I can tell you all the attributes.
Okay,
It's not putting when I say putting up, I mean that accepting, accepting.
okay.
That's when I take the putting up out of the equation.
But are you willing to accept a man that is just like you right now and have the same situations going on that you do?
Probably not.
Exactly. So that's your first clue.
There's your first clue.
So whatever that is that you don't want that you have in yourself that you don't want another man to have, work on that. That's what you need to work on. And if there's more than one thing, work on all of them, but work on them one at a time. So
Yeah.
until you can ask
I need
yourself
a
that
new
question,
list. I need a new list.
yeah.
Is
Until
all
you
you can
can ask yourself that question again and go like, yeah, I do. Then that's
I
the
just
man. No.
question, like, do I have time? I also I have to be willing to make the time to get to know someone, that I have to be willing to put myself out there, because I have been out there and I have been
Yeah.
out for coffee or a drink. And I know from the first 2 minutes whether that if we are in any way aligned.
But
I read people from experience in my life. I can read people so quickly now that if someone told me, for instance, and I was saying this, I just did a episode by myself on altruism. And I was saying that, I dated someone who wanted to appear altruistic by saying, I volunteer and I do this at the church and I work with kids and blah, blah, blah. And I
yeah.
said, that's wonderful. But they were like trying to impress me, and convince me that he's a good guy. And even though I know he's not, there's red flags that say no. So for me, it was like, okay, you can try to convince me, but I think you're trying to convince yourself more.
And that's the whole part of it too, Ally. It's like you won't have to argue that point anymore because you won't be attracting those type of men anymore.
Right.
Once you understand who you are and what you're willing to accept, then naturally you're going to attract the man that's going to be aligned with who you're becoming. And that's just what it was.
Yeah, you have a lot of wisdom. Thank you
Like,
for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story, because I think a lot of people out there, especially women in relationships they have children, and there's abuse going on, and it's very, very difficult, I'm sure, to try to escape that and with your children,
yeah.
and to explain to children what's going on. And sometimes the kids are too young to understand, and so, and it's very difficult if that the person is their father. So I applaud you and thank you so much for sharing your story and imparting some wisdom on me about searching for the right one. But I think I am of the opinion that what is meant to be will be. But I know you have to, you have to become concise, very concise about what it is you want out of life. And that's with everything. That's
And
not just with the relationship. That's like you have to, as someone asked me, well, where are you trying to go with your podcast? And what is your podcast about? And what is your purpose? And I said, I don't really have a niche. I am the niche. I bring the conversation to the table. What's the purpose of course, the purpose is to help other people, to help, if I'm telling your story, my story, we're helping other people to get, I often say, to
plenty.
plant a seed of and a hope, the seed of hope that, you can get through the other side and get to the other, see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And I always say that too, my life experience was to help another woman to make a better choice.
I actually have a quote on my wall. I don't know. I think it was anonymous, but I have a quote that I saw and I went and I got the print and it said, I stopped waiting for the light at the end of the tunnel and lit that bitch myself.
Right. There you go. And you
Sorry
can
about
use
all the
that for
cursing, but
every I mean, you can use that for every scenario, right? You don't have to wait for the right opportunity. You can make the right opportunity,
make the
right?
opportunity fit.
You don't have to wait for a seat at the table, create your own table. And that's the kind of mindset that I'm now, changing into.
Yeah. I decided to change the motto of my podcast a little bit to not, a lot of people say, "Well, why stripping? Why the stripper?" And somebody commented and said, well, one of my guests said, "I like the stripping part because you're stripping down the BS to the real conversation." And that's what you've done today is that just put yourself out there. And so the name of your book again is The Lioness Empress
No, it's Becoming the Empress Lioness, Rising
Becoming.
from Survival into Sovereignty. Yes.
Okay, I love it. Becoming the Empress Lioness from from survival,
Rising from Survival into
right?
Sovereignty. And you can actually find it on my website. It's KarenRFMitchell.com.
Perfect. Wonderful. So I'm so glad that we did this today. Thank you so much for your time, putting up with my technical difficulties as always. And but appreciate your time. And I think that a lot of people are going to resonate with your story and bless you for helping so many other women.
Thank you,
Thank you for being here today. I appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you. And thank you to all the listeners.
All right. And then thank you to all my subscribers and followers. And this will be I think that this is going to be a very powerful episode for many, many people and not just women, but people in general. So thank you for being here, and, I look forward to, maybe doing it again.
Sure.
Okay, thank
Mhm.
you.